Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on the top 10 things that world-class organizations do to deliver the perfect customer experience. My name is Greg Roche, and I'm a director at TLF Research. I'm very pleased you could join today's webinar. What we'll go through, it'll last about 20 minutes. I'll do 30 seconds on who TLF are, and then we'll focus very much on what are the top 10 traits that organizations do that deliver a world-class customer experience. If you've got any questions as we're going through, please just send them in. We've done this webinar a few times and it seems to be quite a good one for people asking questions and getting some sort of discussion at the end. So in terms of what I do and who TLF Research are, I spent the last 19 years of my life at TLF mainly standing in boardrooms and mainly delivering customer satisfaction results to some of the UK's top organisations. TLF as an organisation, we celebrated our 20th anniversary last year, and we do many customer satisfaction surveys, run lots of conferences as well, and currently we're running 121 different live customer satisfaction surveys. We do that through various different types of data collection methodologies, and we get close to 1 million bits of customer feedback each year, and we think we do a pretty good job, but more importantly our clients think we do a pretty good job in terms of sort of when we benchmark our results. So one of the things that we sort of worked on in terms of the sort of clients that we work with, we're not in any way sector specific. We're topic specific. We would see ourselves very much as customer satisfaction specialists, and we work for many different types of sector. So for the football clubs we do fan satisfaction surveys, for housing associations we do tenant leaseholder satisfaction surveys and repairer surveys, we do B2B satisfaction surveys, we do a lot of them would be sort of pan-European or global in different languages, we do your typical B2C satisfaction surveys, we do member satisfaction surveys, and for hospitals we do patient satisfaction surveys. We're also really proud to work for the Institute of Customer Service, the ICS, who have a national measure of customer satisfaction called the UK CSI, and they commission us to carry out that research on their behalf. So one of the things that sort of we're really into is sort of sharing our knowledge and getting dialogues going with people who are of a similar interest, hence, you know, the webinars that we've got and a lot of the sort of the training sessions and events. We're running a training session today actually on customer journey mapping live in London. If you're interested in any of the training events, particularly popular at the moment is customer journey mapping and net promoter score versus ease of doing business versus customer satisfaction, understanding which one is the right metric for you. We've got another webinar running tomorrow at 10 o'clock on hybrid methodologies. That sounds like a real cracker for any of you who are really into research, but I know that is a really good one that Stephen will be presenting. So let's get on to the content. 10 things that world-class organizations do. And I think the starting point for this is really going back to understanding why are you doing a customer survey. You know, some people do it as a tick box exercise, but let's really sort of focus on this is about making organizations more successful. Whatever that measure of success is in the commercial environment, it might be profit, in other environments it might be surplus, or whatever that organization is set up to do. And one of the key drivers in terms of making organizations successful is getting customers to behave in a certain way, getting them to behave in a certain way, in a way that's advantageous for the business or the organization. So let's call that loyalty. So typically in a sort of commercial situation, what you want people to do is to sort of recommend you more, become less price sensitive, buy more of your products, don't look at the competition, complain less, and do lots and lots of things which, if customers are behaving in that way, that's really advantageous for that organization. And that's really powerful, getting someone to behave in a certain way. So how do you get them to behave in a certain way? It's about how you treat them. And let's call that satisfaction. And the theory being that if you treat them in a certain way, often enough, like if you make them happy or if you make them satisfied, they're going to behave in that way that's advantageous to your organization. Equally, if you treat them in a way that makes them unhappy or dissatisfied, they're going to behave in a different way that's not advantageous to your organization, whether that's ceasing to deal with you, complaining a lot, putting stuff on social media, or all those sort of things. And I'll just pause a little bit at that moment, because people often get the phrases customer satisfaction and loyalty combined or muddled. They are two different things. Customer loyalty is how a customer behaves. Satisfaction is how they feel, and it's satisfaction that drives loyalty, and then it's loyalty that will drive organizational success. You can go one stage further back in that sort of chain, in terms of one of the main drivers of customer satisfaction is having motivated, committed employees. We do a few employee surveys, and you do see a real mirror effect. It's really difficult to deliver high levels of customer satisfaction unless you've got high levels of employee satisfaction or employee commitment. If I put a big chain around that, that really is very much the service profit chain that Professor James Heskett wrote about in, it's probably just 2001 now, from Harvard, and that still really applies today. And part of what I really want to sort of talk about is, in terms of these traits that organizations do, it is about making your organization more successful. It isn't about pink furry tree hugging, 63% of customers said this or 23% of customers said that. It's engaging organizations to make change. Because if you think about this, for your customers to be more satisfied tomorrow than they are today, someone needs to do something different in your organization tomorrow than they're doing today. Keep in mind, expectations are growing all the time anyway. But if someone needs to do something different in your organization tomorrow that not doing today, this is actually the genesis of the beginning of organizational change. So let's get into some of the nitty-gritty. When we turn up and present to the boardrooms, part of our presentation is we have a benchmarking league table. People really want to know how they compare to other organizations. So a useful bit of information. There's 1,200 or over 1,200 different lines on that chart, each one of which is a customer satisfaction index for one of our clients. And during our presentation, we put our client on that league table and show them where they sit in the league of customer satisfaction. And one of the questions that we're asked really very often is, who's at the top of the league table, Greg? And I don't think people are actually sort of want to know exactly who is at the top of the league table. I think the question is that something they're doing we can learn from? Can we pinch a good idea, which is sort of what benchmarking is a little bit about? Is there something that they're doing that we can do to help drive our customer satisfaction up? Quite interestingly, one of the questions we do get asked an awful lot as well is, who's at the bottom of the league table, and have you got any humorous stories about how they've made customer lives hell and the misery that they've put customers through? We obviously sign lots of NDAs and confidentiality agreements, so we can't name clients whether they're top, middle, or the bottom of the league table. But back to those organizations that are at the top of the league table, because when we look at who those are, they are from different sectors. They are different size companies. There's big and small companies on that. There's long established companies and there's new companies on that. They have different type customers on that. There's public and private on that. And the conclusion that you come to very quickly, it isn't about who they are as an organization, the demographics of them as an organization that puts them at the top of that league table. It's about what they do. It's about what they do with customers. So one of the things that we've looked at is, what are the sort of traits that those organizations do and seem to do more of that others don't do. So here's a list of 10 traits that they do more than others. I'm just going to name check them all, and then we're going to go through them sort of one by one, and we'll dwell on a couple of the more interesting ones a little bit. They have senior management commitment. They understand that perception is reality. They don't let paralysis by analysis cause inaction. They're good at focusing on 2 or 3 priorities improvement. They implement actions. They do it quickly. They're really good at communicating to all levels of staff with customer needs. They're good at getting targets and bonuses aligned to customer satisfaction, whether that's staff or suppliers or subcontractors. They're pretty good at having a robust complaint handling system, and they are very good at the sort of the you said we did mantra of post-survey communications. So let me just go through the list in a little bit more detail and pull out 1 or 2 salient points. So in terms of senior management commitment, and I use the word commitment, not sponsorship, not buy-in, not support, but commitment. And I use the word commitment because what happens in any customer survey process, keep in mind this is about changing employees' behaviours and actions and processes in the organisation. Very early on in the process, someone will come up with a really good idea and say, hey, look, if we do this, this will make our customers more satisfied. And there'll be someone else in the organisation who will say, but if it ain't broken, why are we changing it or trying to fix it? And that challenge will come really, really early on in the process. There'll be people trying to defend the status quo because it is the status quo. One of the ways that we senior management commitment is when we turn up to do a results presentation. And the conversation can go along 1 of 2 ways, really. They tend to phone up and say, Greg, how long do you need for your board presentation? Say, well, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we can go into a little bit of detail. And they say, great, actually, can you do sort of a 2-hour presentation, have a bit of a break then, and then we'd like to sort of break out and have some sort of workshop on the back a bit. We'd really like to set out an action plan. We'd really like to get some dates in the diaries. We'd really like to do all that survey implementation stuff. The survey is the beginning of the change. It might be the end of the survey process, the beginning of the organizational change. We really want to get that all sorted out for the rest of the year. As opposed to some of our other clients who phone up and say, how long to do a presentation, Greg? Well, you know, hour and a half, 2 hours if you want me to go into a bit of detail. Oh, we've got quite a busy board agenda that day. Can you do a summary in half an hour of the main points? And of course I can. Very easy to do a summary in half an hour of the main points. But I'll tell you what, when I'm stood there doing that presentation, the thoughts are actually going through my mind are, A, I wonder if I'll be back here next year, and B, if I am, I'm probably going to be explaining why your customer satisfaction scores have gone down, and you'll probably be shooting the messenger as well. Senior management commitment, what happens to the main person in the organization tends to get done. Understanding perception is reality, and sometimes it's perception that needs to change, not reality. Because sometimes sort of customer surveys are really, they feel unfair because customers say things that aren't true, and that really can hurt. And it can be about individual people or things, but it doesn't feel fair. And actually, that's not often a bad outcome, because if they're saying things that aren't true, that really just comes down to communication. You don't actually have to change anything. You just need to make sure you've got a decent communication plan that tells people what the truth is, so you can align sort of perception and reality. But one of the things that the organizations do at the top of that league table, they are really, really good at managing customers' perceptions. All customers have a perception. It's whether you want to get involved with it and manage it, but they definitely have one. And the organizations at the top of that league table, they get involved and manage that perception. So let me tell you a little story about Ryanair, who claim to be Europe's most punctual on-time airline. And they do that little thing of promise and over delivery. They say it takes 45 minutes to fly from Manchester to Dublin. It doesn't. It takes 30 minutes. But I don't know if any of you have flown with them. When they actually land, they play a fanfare that says, welcome to Dublin on time, or welcome to Dublin, we've arrived early. They're not relying on me looking at my watch thinking, I wonder if it's on time or not. They're telling everyone on that flight that they've arrived on time. Now that's a trick the train companies are missing out on. I go down to London a lot on the trains, and if you ask me if they're on time, I'd go, oh no, they're always late. Well, they're not always late. It's just that as humans, we overemphasize the negative. It carries 4 or 5 times the impact of a positive experience. And I know if I sat down, I wrote and I looked at it, I would see actually most of the time they are on time, but that's not how it feels. And they're missing a trick in terms of managing my perception. Don't let paralysis by analysis cause inaction. Customer surveys are absolutely full of red herrings, where people want to cut the data one more time. Let's have a look at this, let's have a look at that, where people pick on individual customer comments, which sort of suits their own personal agenda. They want to be positioned on league tables. I mean, we can put clients on overall league tables, sector league tables, lots of different league tables. And I sometimes feel people just want to be on a league table that puts them two-thirds of the way up. But the organizations are at the top of this. One of the things they're really good at saying, hold on, we've got the results, let's get on and do some action, usually focusing on 2 or 3 priorities for improvement. Not trying to do everything, focus on 2 or 3 priorities for improvement that are key or are important to customers. And one of the things that they do things and they do it quickly. This is all about change. This is all about change. And the little catchphrase that I use a lot during presentations is the smallest action achieves more than the greatest of intentions. The smallest action achieves more than the greatest of intentions. Let me tell you a story about one of our clients who's a breakdown recovery service. If you break down at the side of the road, they will come and rescue you. And all they did to increase customer satisfaction, increase their net promoter score, and considerably reduce their inbound call length was alter the order in which they asked customers questions when they phoned in. So in the bad old days, you'd phone in after your car had broken down at the road, you'd be going, help, I'm at the road, I've got kids, I need to be somewhere, and they would say, sure Greg, you know, can you tell me your membership number? And I say, oh, I don't know, I'm at the side of the road, can you come quickly? Can you tell us your date of birth, Mr. Roche? And I'd say, yeah, 30th of May, blah, 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 blah. And they'd say, okay, can you just confirm your postcode? Yeah, can you come quick? Can you come quick? I need to be somewhere. I don't like where I am. Postcode HD5 0QZ. Okay, we found you on our records. Yes, we shall come and send someone out to mend your car. They're not seeing the world through the eyes of the customer. They've altered it now, so they've put all that authentication and validation at the end of the call, not at the beginning. Really, how many people are going to call in and try and black their way through an organization? Because what you want to do at the beginning is get a rescue vehicle en route to you. So now the call goes very much along the lines of, help, I've broken down, side of the road, kids need to be somewhere. Sure, tell us where you are and we'll get someone en route to you straight away. That bit happens, and then they go into the, do you know your membership number? No, I don't. Date of birth, postcode, and often those calls probably end in a situation where someone is saying, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Roche, your membership expired 6 months ago. Would you like to renew that membership now whilst this vehicle is en route for you? And that's a lot, because they're seeing the world from the customer's perspective, that's a lot calmer call, it's a lot more efficient call, and it's a lot better call. All they've done is alter the order in which they've asked questions. Number 6, strong communication to all staff and to all levels of staff of customer needs. And I think it's just really important to understand the definition of customer satisfaction. It's all about doing best what matters most to your customers, doing best what matters most. The things you want to be doing well are the things which are most important to your customers. So take, for example, I spend a lot of time going into contact centres, and you often go in and people say, hey, we've got a new phone system in place, look at all these TVs on the wall, we're going to answer phones quicker, that's really going to drive up customer satisfaction, isn't it? And you sort of say, well, it's definitely better if you answer the phones quicker than longer, definitely. But what criteria do you think customers are judging you against when they call in? Do you think they're judging you against the speed you answer the telephone, or do you think they're judging you against the criteria of getting a first-time call resolution, dealing with a human being who can solve your problem? Which of those do you think you're being judged against? And it's obviously the latter. And I think this is a really important thing. You've got to understand what matters most to customers. What is important to customers? What criteria are they judging you against? And many, many times that's not what the internal KPIs are. Having targets and bonuses aligned to customer satisfaction measurement to keep employees motivated and focused. Organisations at the top of that league table, really, nearly all of them have customer satisfaction related pay. I think there's a lot of symbology. It goes back to number one. You know, if this really matters to the organisation and really matters to the senior management, why wouldn't you be bonused on this if this is a driver of organisational success? If anyone is interested, we do run a webinar on how to set up customer satisfaction related pay. When it works, it's fantastic. It can have pitfalls if the scheme isn't set up in a professional and robust manner. Not just employees, but making external suppliers responsible for delivering customer satisfaction. Obviously, as more and more sort of work gets subcontracted, what SLAs do you judge your suppliers against? You know, if you're in the housing, you know, are you judging the people who carry out your repairs against some SLAs? Why not just judge them against whether they deliver customer satisfaction? Same for delivery organisations in manufacturing. And actually, to share a little secret with you, who used to be at the bottom of our league table was the canteen at BBC Bush House. So the late great Sir Terry Wogan was indeed right about the canteen at BBC Bush House. And what they did to increase customer satisfaction, they contracted it to a catering company. And they said, we're not going to judge you against a load of sort of SLAs, KPIs about, you know, different choice of meals, vegetarian offerings, choice, price, opening hours. You're the expert in that. What we're going to judge you against is whether you make our customers satisfied. And there was obviously sort of a budget in place, and they built in sort of bonus the supplier based on that, because they didn't want to get into all the sort of the KPIs and the SLIs. Why do that? The other company, the expert, what we want is customer satisfaction. You know, we're letting you deliver that to our customers, so we are going to judge you against that. Number 9, these organisations seem to be pretty good at handling complaints and handling complaints promptly and efficiently. And I think that's for a couple of reasons. You can get into the theoretical debate of welcoming complaints and all those sort of things. But one thing's about a complaint is it is highly specific. So that makes it highly actionable. You're getting a really good voice of the customer out something very, very specific, which means you can do something about it. So you really see it through the lens of the customer, and it's usually easy to action change. Free customer feedback. You don't have to pay organisations like us to deliver. The final one on the list of 10 is the communication, or the post-survey communication of you said did. And what this is based on, there's various models about this. You know, everyone or most organisations carry out some sort of measurement. Having done the measurement, usually then there's a communication session where employees are told what customers are saying, often to gain their ideas, their inputs, their ideas, some thoughts they've got. Following on from that, you know, the company pulls together an action plan, usually, you know, an A4 bit of paper, some against it, some people's initials against it. Action plan is set up, and then that action plan, and then having done stuff, what you then do is you go back to customers and say, you said, we did, you said, we did, you told us this, we've done that, you told us that, we've done that. And sometimes you said you'd like this, but we can't do that because of this, this, and this. It's going to take us a while to do that. Really go back and sort of did the whole you said, you did answer. Being a research company, we love to do research, so we've sort of done a survey in terms of some organisations across the UK in terms of seeing how many people sort of do those steps. So pretty much most organisations have some sort of customer measurement in place. Perhaps only half of our results actually tell employees what customers are saying. and just under a third actually get down to sort of forming an action plan. In terms of, carrying out that action plan, we're probably down to only 1 in 10 actually, does a pretty good action plan, and only 20 actually complete that loop and go back to communicating to customers. You said we did, and that's really quite sad. Everyone who started off with that measurement process really thought they were going to go all the way around and did it with the best of intentions. And it might be worth just dwelling a little bit on where you think your organization or your business sort of sits on that. How far are you? The 1 in 20? Many sort of congratulations. So there is the top 10 traits that organizations do. One of the things that we sometimes do with organizations, and you can do this yourself, if you'd like a copy of the slides you've seen today, please contact just Charlotte or I. Our details will be up at the end. Some organizations use that as a little bit of a self-assessment checklist. Not a bad way. Get a load of people in the room, senior managers or your staff, and just say, hey, how do you think we do against these top 10 things? Scores 0 to half 1, see what score we get. And where we facilitate session, I think part of the interesting bit is seeing where people have different views. Are we good at communication? Someone thinks we are, someone thinks we're not. And they're pretty good in terms of generating a quality conversation. So thank you very much for your time today. If you've got any further questions, if you want to contact myself or Charlotte, that's absolutely fine. We'd really like to engage with you and enter into sort of a conversation with you. In terms of today's webinar, I can see we have a question. It's quite a good one, really. Out of the top 10, which would you consider to be the most important? One of those. A bit of a killer question, really. I suppose it probably depends who you are and where you're at. But I think if I had to nail my colours to the mast, I would probably say number 5, doing things. All this is about change and making research actionable. So I think it's really important things are done as a result of the survey. Without doing that, you can't do any of the other communication. Okay, so that's together at the end of today's webinar. I hope you're all up to date with your Christmas shopping and your Secret Santas. I wish you a very good day.